Hi there, my name is Tyler Esselman.
And I'm Michael Osinski.
And you are listening to...
This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11, our podcast. Thanks for tuning back in. Our podcast, this is a place where we invite our friends, family, members of our community, comrades in arms, anyone we can find and trust to make a very strong case for what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect, in fact, that 10 out of 10, it just isn't good enough.
No, come on.
No.
Come on. And this person that we have this week really took the brief and ran with it. I think that there is this one gets attacked from all angles, and it's a very special person. It's a very special person in me and Michael's life. Somebody from the period of time in our lives in which we met and in which our friendship was cemented. So great memories there. Michael, who are we speaking with today?
Is an epic guest, and that is Damon Kiely, a true Renaissance man, professor, director, playwright, author, mentor, runner, and now apparently tennis player and pianist. So who knew? We know him from the theater school at DePaul University, formerly the Goodman School of Drama. If you know, you know, where he is the chair of performance. But you, dear listeners, might know him from one of his books, How to Read a Play, How to Rehearse a Play, or the forthcoming Play Directing the Basics. Or maybe you might know him from one of the many productions he's directed, everywhere from Rhode Island to Arkansas to his home base in Chicago, where he helmed productions of Miracle at the Royal George, Barbecue at Steppenwolf's 1700 Space, and Boy at Timeline Theater, among many, many others. And we haven't even gotten to the shows he's written. Whew!
Right.
He's a clever storyteller, a swell guy, and one hell of a teacher.
Yeah. One of those teachers is we all get a few of them in our life, right? And you know, Damon, I'm not just saying this, Damon. If you're listening to this, which I think you will.
Yeah.
But he's just one of those teachers. He reminds you of what's possible as a teacher, and kind of opens your eyes to emotional honesty in the classroom and how it can change somebody's life. I love this guy.
And he tells such a good, clear story about this album that Tyler and I got distracted, and we failed to drop a Radiohead reference once in this entire episode.
For the first time ever.
The first time, and this one goes to 11 history, we do not mention Radiohead, which, you know, dear listeners, it's a service to you, because we don't want you to think that we're just totally obsessed with Radiohead or anything like that. That's certainly not the case.
Certainly not. But this isn't just a mechanism for us to talk about Radiohead as much as possible.
No, that's not at all what we're doing here. And we're certainly not going to say Radiohead a few more times in the intro just to make up for the fact that we didn't mention it in the episode. Definitely not. Radiohead. In all seriousness, though, everybody, Damon makes a great case for a truly beautiful album. And it's just
one that'll stick with you.
Yeah, this was just a great conversation we had with him. So you should listen to it. Let's listen to it. Damon Kiely, welcome to This One Goes to 11.
Thank you very much. Excited. Very excited.
We're glad to have you.
This is a treat. I've used that word a lot for people who, the different characters that have made appearances on this podcast so far. But this was not one I imagined before we started. And then Michael proposed it, and I was like, I can't believe I didn't think of it. You were made for this.
I appreciate that. Well, it's funny you say that, because I did almost turn it down only because, you know, I emailed back and forth with Michael a little bit about this, say like, you know, I'm not really that person who sits around listening to music. And I think that, you know, like, this will probably be the most I've talked about music in my life. Like, it's just not a thing I do. I just literally don't like sit around talking about music with people. And so I was a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
And I am still a little nervous about it, because it's like, I don't have a lot of, you know, music references at my fingertips. I don't really remember lyrics very well. I'm not even sure I remember. Like, I have open on my phone to my right, like, what are the titles of the song in that album? Like, even though like I love the album, I don't always remember everything, and so I was a little nervous about it. But then, Michael said, "Listen, if there's an album that you have a personal connection to," I was like, "Well, yeah, I have this one, and I can probably talk about it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. But it's been thinking about it but then like as it's been coming up, I'm like, "Ooh, I think this will be fun."
Yeah. Well, could you share for our listeners what album you have brought before that this one goes to 11 Pantheon today?
Yes. By the way, I Forgive You by Brandi Carlile.
Which immediately I think is probably one of the better titles to an album that we've had on this. It's an exceptional title just because it's like so freaking specific.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, I don't know. Am I a Brandi Carlile super fan? I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, as you get into this, you'll hear like my sort of weird history with her. Well, I say her. I really should say them, right?
Are they using them?
No, it's a group.
Oh, right.
Brandi Carlile is a group.
That's true.
Brandi Carlile is not just a person.
That's a good point.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's actually a very good segue into one little segment that we need to have before we get into the weeds, which is our 60-second recap, or otherwise known as the beginner's guide to Brandi Carlile and By the Way, I Forgive You in 60 seconds, which I will be undertaking today, actually.
Oh, good luck.
Thank you.
And Damon, you get to evaluate Tyler's progress. And remember, you can choose to use whatever rubric, scale, or assessment, whatever you want to use. We have just not to put any pressure on you, but for the first time this season, we did have someone use colors as a scale. Colors, and also, that was the big one. Okay, Tyler, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, your 60 seconds starts now.
Brandi Marie Carlile cuts a very particular figure as an American country-esque musician. Born in the Pacific Northwest, she followed the path of so many mythical guitar-toting musicians before her and dropped out of high school to chase the creative spirit full-time. A self-taught guitar and piano player, she began to gig around Seattle with longtime collaborators Tim and Phil Hanseroth in the mid-aughts, crafting songs rich in emotion and depth with a voice powerful enough to rip the doors off an old barn. Her unique blend of country, rock, folk, and a healthy dose of art pop has led to collaborations with some of the all-time greats like T-Bone Burnett, Joni Mitchell, and Elton John. By the Way, I Forgive You, her sixth studio release, was counted among the best albums of 2018 by innumerable parties, including a young man named Barack Obama. The album sees Carlile positively on fire. Soaring Whales, Fierce Honesty, this is Carlile at the height of her powers. She speaks truth to power, right from the heart, and demands your attention. She is the real deal.
Wow, perfect timing.
Nice job.
Thank you.
So it's interesting. So like I would say, because I know that I listened to the one with Ash Lozano, so I get that I now can rate this. It's a funny thing. I would say it depends on... So is it an accurate representation of Brandi Carlile, the person? I'd say, yeah, for sure. Like 10 out of 10 broken horses.
Broken horses on the board.
But if it is a representation of the group Brandi Carlile, it is more like a 4 out of 10 broken horses.
God, I missed Damon Kiely feedback. I missed this with every ounce of my being. So incisive.
Because I knew that this was coming, right? And I thought to myself, I'm like, I wonder if these guys are going to recognize that that they are... Brandi Carlile is a person, of course. It is also the band. The band is incorporated as Brandi Carlile. If she quit the band, Tim and Phil keep the name Brandi Carlile and could put out albums as Brandi Carlile.
Oh, now I didn't realize that.
And those three people split the profits of Brandi Carlile equally.
Oh.
See, now I missed this part of my research.
And the three of them are listed as the writers for almost every single song. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter actually who came up with it first. I think it doesn't actually matter if one of the three doesn't quote unquote contribute something.
Mm-hmm.
They just decided every single one of these is going to be. Now, it's interesting, though, right? Because, and I didn't actually know a lot of this until I think when I saw them in concert. And I was like, who the hell are those guys? They're like basically a huge part of this thing, which I didn't quite realize. Yeah. And then started to do some more research. And then, like I said, because I'm like, I don't know, bordering on a super fan, I guess, bought her memoir, which is, by the way, Broken Horses.
Broken Horses.
So,
another great title.
Which is, I think, good. It's not like, I don't think Brandi Carlile is going to listen to this. I don't think it's like great. It's not like great writing. It's fine writing, but it's interesting, cool backstories. And like her whole story, I think, is pretty cool.
And you know what? Let's aggregate that rating, shall we? We'll say 6 out of 10 net points. We'll say 6 out of 10 Broken Horses for my.
Okay.
That seems fair,
good.
Right?
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, like I just know that the first song on the album, every time I hear that song, was written by one of the twins. Oh, and just remembering that that's the interesting thing I think about Phil and Tim is they're twins, right? Which I think is one of the reasons why their voices sound extraordinary together, and their harmonies are just like. If you guys ever want to hear, like, I mean, I think that, by the way, I Forgive You is great, but The Eye is just a song I've listened to 7 million times, and mostly because their harmonies are just stunning. Absolutely.
And isn't that song about them? It's about those three together in their sort of creative spirit that they have forged.
Yeah, that's right. And then, like, I will admit, I'm not enough of a super fan to be able to tell you who's Tim and who's Phil, nor to say which one of them is married to Brandi Carlile's sister. But I know that one of them.
I knew that was a thing. Yeah.
One of them is, and they all kind of live in a compound or something.
It sounds like it.
I remember seeing, like, I think they did some, like, a 60 Minutes interview or something with her, and like, the whole family, and by family I mean, like, yes, the twins and sister. It feels like they all sort of live somewhere in the middle of nowhere, which sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, it was great. During the lockdown, they started doing live broadcasts. I don't know, on the internet. They would sing through an entire album. And I listened to, and it was really interesting. It was like the two twins and her, and then like, again, I'm not like a real music person would go, and their cellist so-and-so, which I don't actually know their name of their cellist, but whatever. And their cellist was there. And they were in this little tiny studio in a barn or something like that. And they played through, I think, Give Up the Ghost or something like that. Which was a beautiful experience.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Before we dig too far into the album, we're curious to know what, and you've already sort of alluded to this a little bit, but what is and has been your relationship with music overall?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I definitely, like I think I said, I listened to the Ashlyn Lozano episode, which was great. And so, I heard some things you guys talked about there that was interesting. And so, like, it was like, how do I come to music first? And I definitely think it's like vibe, maybe, or like how it makes me feel is maybe the thing that I come to. Because I don't listen that. I was just realizing, because I re-listened to the album, once or twice in the last couple of weeks. There's certain songs where, like, some of them I'm like, oh, I don't actually know any of the lyrics here. Like, I actually don't. I haven't listened. Like, what is he saying? Like, I don't actually know. There's some where I feel like I know the lyrics quite well, and some where I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I guess I feel like I listen to the vibe more, and I definitely feel like I am a music in the background while I'm doing something else kind of person in general. I would say, I guess I feel like I hadn't thought of this until just this second. As an adult, I would say probably the majority of my music has been listened to while I was in a car. Like I'm pretty sure of that. When I was a kid, I guess I would listen to albums, literally, like, vinyl LPs occasionally. And those were like stuff that my parents had, which was like Beatles and like Godspell, for God's sake, and like, I don't know, there were some other, like,
there's no shame in that.
musicals that I listen to a bunch. But I've just not been that. I've never been that person to like I know people in my life who like get a Bowie album, go sit in the basement, put it on, and just like listen to it. That was just never me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say like as an adult person, like the number of concerts I've been to is like pretty small. I don't go to them very often. And when I go, I have to admit, like I kind of tune out a little bit, honestly, with very rare exceptions. It's just not my live music is really just like not the thing that I will choose to get out of the house for. So that's why, like I said, originally I was a little like not sure.
And now you are a musician too. There is that factor.
I am a musician. I feel like that's pretty.
Oh, Damon, I have a very, very specific image of you and Janie Killups playing banjo together in the rehearsal room for In the Blood and the Pines.
Sure.
And that was there was something about there's a musical spirit in you. Let's not sell yourself short.
Okay, I think you're not wrong. I think that's true. I mean, I am right. So what I've done during the last 6 months, I don't know, September, whatever. In September, I started taking piano lessons again. I took piano lessons like 4th through 8th grade, have not played since. Happy to tell your listeners, I am 53. So, like it's been a while. It's been great. This probably would not be surprising to either of you. I do practice every day. And and it is like between 10 minutes or up to 60. Like I will play it for an hour. And you're right. I love it. I love it. And so my piano teacher, I'm just taking it like a local place. I like drop in. I go once a week for 30 minutes. And for a while I was playing these little like Bach. I mean, they were like not that interesting. And she's like, I think you should try this. And then she gives me like a 6-page nocturne. I'm like, okay. Which I have been working on. Yeah, way in the deep end, which I can now just about play. So my banjo playing has fallen off quite a bit, sadly. But yes, that banjo playing, it's true. The banjo playing, I will say, does relate to one other aspect of my music liking, which I think relates to Brandi Carlile, which is, and that banjo, right? So I'm not sure when, but at a certain point in like, the mid 2000s, I guess, I started getting pretty into like old time country music, and it's true actually. When I left, that's interesting because when I left, I was at American Theater Company as the artistic director from 2002 to 2007 before I started at DePaul. And the last show we did there was this Oklahoma that maybe has some similarities to the Daniel Fish Oklahoma right now, in the sense that it was a very stripped down version. We did only like guitar, banjo, fiddle, stand-up bass, that kind of stuff. And I really did get into that music a lot. Like Hank Williams, I did a Hank Williams musical that was like huge for me. I wrote a version of the Bacchae as sort of a Appalachian Dust Bowl musical, and like co-wrote the lyrics with this really incredible musician. And we wrote some old time country gospel music. And so I do like all of that stuff. And I feel like, I guess to circle back to like Brandi Carlile, like the things that I love in music, I would say are the Beatles, boring, but there it is. I think they're amazing. And I think the thing I love about them is storytelling, melody, honestly, like they're melodic stuff.
Yeah.
Very tuneful. I'm a very tuneful person when I listen to music. And Hank Williams, and like there was a whole time I was really into that like Appalachian, the Carter family, and clawhammer banjo and all that kind of stuff. And then I would say I really also, it seems, I guess, my preferred type of musician is like a female singer-songwriter. Like I've probably listened to every single Amy Mann song 7,000 times. There was a woman named Katie Todd who didn't really break out, but I liked her a lot. Ingrid Michaelson, like these are like, I couldn't tell you why, but that's kind of the like vibe. And if you smash all those things together, I think you get Brandi Carlile.
I got to get some points on your board though.
Yeah, you deserve
60 minutes, 60 points for 60 minutes of piano practice every day. If you can get to it, God love you. And then I'm going to give you 3 dueling banjos. 3 dueling banjos for. You're going to pick it back up. I just know you will.
I hope so.
And let's go with that for now. So 60 minutes of piano practice and 3 dueling banjos.
There was so like when I was leaving American Theater Company and going to DePaul in the fall, I had this funny summer where I was like, oh, I'm still at American Theater Company, but I'm kind of transitioning out and they're in the search. And that job was so all consuming. It was like all the time. It was relentless. And I was like, I'm going to have some time on my hands this summer before I start in the fall. I'm going to pick up the banjo. So that's what I did. And so I took 8 weeks of clawhammer at the Old Town School of Folk Music and once again practiced pretty much every single day. And, I got somewhere. It was fun.
That's the first mention of the Old Town School of Folk Music on this podcast, and I think it's long overdue. Shout out to that organization. Doing great work in Chicago, honestly. Really love that.
Totally. Amazing.
I'm jealous of you're being able to practice that much because I took piano for 13 years, and at the time when I took it, it was, I was serious about it, but also I was a teenager, so practicing was, I wasn't as diligent as I should have been, but I sort of I feel like if I had access to a piano on a regular basis, I miss it. I miss being able to sort of like, oh wow, like 60 minutes went by. I was just playing piano, didn't realize that time had gone by.
Yeah, for sure. I really do enjoy it. I mean, I will say that piano, we'll see about banjo. I think I have more facility with the piano, and some of it is like, it's a little bit of a puzzle. Clawhammer banjo is not really a puzzle. It's just like, I never got good enough at it for it to be a puzzle. I imagine maybe like Steve Martin level, bluegrass banjo is a puzzle, but piano playing for me is like, it's a puzzle to solve that I can get a little bit better at every single day. And so, this thing has been really fun. It's when she first gave it to me, I'm like, you're nuts. There is no way. I mean, there's these like crazy arpeggios and like runs that go literally from the treble all the way down to the bass. And I'm like, this is stupid. I don't even know why I gave it to me. But what's been amazing is like, oh, I can actually play that run now,
Yeah.
And so, it's fun.
Why don't you tell us about how you came to discover this particular Brandi Carlile album, or even Brandi Carlile in general? I don't know if this was your first exposure to her or them.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it was the joke being on Obama's year-end list. Obama, since he stopped being president, has come up with like a year-end list of books he's read and also songs he likes. And I have a few years like in a row. Like, I think when they first came out, Spotify wasn't smart enough to make a list right away, so I had to make my own and sort of like made my own little playlist of Barack Obama's favorites. And I remember really specifically, we were, as a family, we were in Hawaii. My wife is from Hawaii, and she grew up there, and her mom and stepdad had said, like, let's have Christmas in Hawaii in 2018. And so we did, and it was amazing. And one of the things about me that may or may not be surprising is that I'm incredibly cheap when it comes to certain things. One of those things is, this is a long way. I'm going to get there though, guys.
I love it. I love it.
We bought a Toyota Prius in 2006, which we still have.
Oh, wow.
Yes, you cannot on a 2006 Prius bring your phone into the car and have it start playing music. You know what I mean? Like you got to have a CD player and some stupid, whatever. So when we go on vacation to get a rental car, it's like, oh my God, look, you bring your phone and it just plays off of your iPod. It's amazing. Yes. So like, that's always a treat for us. So we're like, in some like RAV4 or something, I don't know, whatever. And, I just remember being in this parking lot and I was waiting for Jennifer to come back or someone's coming back and play the joke. And I was like, what is this song? Who is this person? What in the hell? I just was knocked out by it from the second I heard it. And that I just was like, oh, I need to listen to this whole album. What is this? Who is this person? And so like, I feel like maybe that week I kind of, actually I do remember that week possibly like playing the album. I have no problem having that album on in the background. I think my wife wanted to kill me because, it's like, it's not like easy listening in the background music. Exactly. It's like, it goes all over the place. And so I listened to it a little bit. She's like, you need to put something else on. So, and then, Michael knows this. I'm probably told Tyler as well. Like this story takes a bit of a tragic turn. It's a funky turn. So, that little Christmas was this moment, this little bubble of respite in my life. Earlier in 2018, my brother Colin, who's my only brother, was diagnosed with colon cancer. And, he was 47. And they catch colon cancer all the time. And so it was like, terrible, but we were going to make it. And in fact, like that Thanksgiving, he was a violist. He played with the Jacksonville Symphony for 20 years or something crazy. I don't know, something like that. And so he went back to work. Like he hadn't been able to work since like, I don't remember, January or something like that, February. Don't remember exactly. And then he went back to work, but like pretty soon after Thanksgiving, he's like, I'm still in pain. And his doctors are like, you shouldn't be. I don't know why that would be. And so he was back in the hospital. He might have been in the hospital while we were in Hawaii. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, no, he was. That's true, because he spent Christmas Day in the hospital, but it was still unclear what was going on exactly, like what's going on. And then pretty soon after January, we turned into 2019. It was like, oh, this is done. Like they had just missed it. They didn't realize that they thought they caught it all, and it was like spreading everywhere. And so it was pretty rough. And I like got that phone. My mom went down. And there was a question of like, oh, he might have to go into hospice. And then my mom flew down, and she's like, oh yeah, if you want to see me, you're gonna fly down now. And so I did, and that was it. That was just like, I don't remember, 4 days, 5 days, or something like that. It was like over. And I'm not gonna go to every twist and turn of that, but it was obviously horrible and terrible. And then here's the weird twist where we get to Brandi Carlile. Once again in a rental car, so I could play whatever I wanted, and I can't tell you exactly when and why. I don't actually remember when and why, but for some reason I started playing that album pretty much on repeat that entire week, and so that's all I listened to. And there was something about it that really like captured some of the things I was feeling. It allowed me to like be sad and angry in a way that I don't know. It allowed me to be sad and angry in a way that not hearing it didn't. And the night he died, first, I mean, it was horrible, obviously. And then his best friend had flown down and was there at the moment he died. And we went out to like the strangest, weirdest, dirtiest karaoke bar in Jacksonville, because it was the only thing that was open, and it was smoke, and you could still smoke cigarettes in there, which is weird. And we drank bad liquor, talked about him. We did not sing karaoke. Other people did. It was not awesome. And then we left, and then I played, I feel like it was The Joke, like honestly, like as loud as humanly possible. Drove into the parking lot of my hotel and cried my face off. And so I just had this strange, strong connection to it. And then I cannot tell you when I made this decision or why I made this decision, But like right after that, I made a playlist that was every Brandi Carlile song to date. And
Yeah.
I listened to that on shuffle. And so he died like, as I said before, my memory is not the best. January 17th, 19th, something like that. I have it. And I listened to exclusively that playlist until June.
Oh, wow.
Like it was a very interesting psychological moment where I tried to play other music and it felt wrong. I don't know, couldn't tell you why. And so I just listened to it over and over and over again. And then sometime in, I don't remember, March, April, Jennifer, my wife, knew that I was listening to her a lot, didn't know quite the extent. And she's like, hey, Brandi Carlile is playing at, I don't remember, Northerly Island, whatever that weird, there's a weird sort of outdoor venue, like near where there used to be an airport. Right. Yeah, right. It used to be like where Miggs Airport used to be or something like that. I guess that's it. And I was like, we should buy tickets. And I'm like, oh, sure. I could just cry my way through the whole thing. And she kind of laughed like, haha, what? I don't know. And then she bought 4 tickets and the family went and we went out to dinner right before. And I was like, oh, I think you guys don't know this about this music. So I probably should tell you. And they were all a little like, okay, whoops.
Oh my goodness.
And it really was like a truly extraordinary, like moving experience for me. And weird because, like I said, I listened to every single song they played. I knew from the first note, but because I'm a weird music listener, like I didn't know the title of the song actually, and I wouldn't necessarily know the lyrics. I just knew how it made me feel. I knew the song. I was ready to hear it. You know what I mean? So that's just the way I listen to music. And so they'd be like, "What's the name of this song?" I'd be like, "I don't actually know." I'm like, something, the Hurricane. I don't know. Anyway, but they played, so many of the. I think they played this story. I know they did the Eye. The Eye live is just stunning because I think they did it. They did it a cappella, and it was just
Good
like
move.
outrageously good. And they have like a little mini orchestra, right? They have a couple of violins and a cello, which is amazing. And then they have a drummer. I don't know that the drummer's featured highly as a member of the band. The twins were there, and they would sometimes go, full on, electric guitar shredding, and then sometimes they'd go fully acoustic and, and simple. And then, I don't know whether I know at some point we're going to talk about my standout song, which is Party of One. And I don't know whether they always end that tour with Party of One, but that's what they ended with. And I was done for. I was on the ground, just like a puddle. And that song kind of always gets me. So that's my long tortured story of this music. And I'll say the last thing I'll say is that, like, when I would listen to it, when I said like, oh, maybe I could do Brandi Carlile, I had listened to it for a while. I didn't think I actually re-listened to the album. I just listened to the track for a bit. It's like, yep, love that song, and just went to each one. I'm like, yeah, I still love this album. I think it's great. Let's do it. But then in the last, few weeks or whatever, I've been listening to it a few more times, and I stand by it. I love it.
Absolutely. Okay, points, 900 points for the dirtiest, just most rundown, awful karaoke bar in Jacksonville, Florida, because a dirty karaoke bar will always be there for you. So 900 points for that, for sure.
Thank you.
I think you started talking about it. I think now is probably a good time to talk about your standout track, so our listeners can hear that. Is there a particular reason why you chose Party of One as the standout track from the album?
I do not think I've ever listened to the song without getting emotional, and I've listened to it a lot of times. Maybe if I'm like really driving, it's in the background and I'm not really listening to it. But if I even listen to a little bit of it, it's really gets to me. I think honestly, from the first piano riff, is so soulful and so affecting and so full of the sort of anguish and sorrow that's in that thing. And then I will say that, like, waiter, send this to the other person, the Party of One, the only lonely soul in this place. I do honestly always think of his widow, like the idea of her being a party of one now, that they were married for a while. She was 41 when he died, and so she's this party of one. And it just kind of just gets me. And then within it, there's like, I Love You the First Time I Saw You, which actually is the true story of their relationship. Like, it really was this strange case of like love at first sight, that they just met each other and immediately they were like, oh, this is it. Like Amy, his widow, came home and told, I don't remember, her mom or her friend, roommate, something like, oh, I just met the person I'm going to marry. Like, literally, that's how it was. And they got each other in a way that was pretty extraordinary. And so I think that's it. And then just like, that if I will say, is like the way this album is for me. Like, a lot of stuff, her stuff is so much about loss, not about death loss necessarily, or grief. It's usually about like, I miss you because you've left me, but that translates pretty quickly into grief. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I feel like her voice also captures, grief in the way that I've experienced it, in the way that she sings, in the way that she has this rawness in her voice, more so than any album before or since. I like her latest album. I don't love it in the same way. I think there's a rawness to this album that is just really incredible. And her cracks, in the way that she ends up screaming sometimes, in the way that she just, And then I will say that the orchestral stuff on it, orchestral stuff on a album of any kind, that's rock or pop or folk or whatever, it can be terrible, of course. It can just be the schmaltziest thing you've ever heard. And I don't feel that with this. I feel like, I'm not, again, because I'm not that music buff guy, I know that she had some arranger who was kind of famous. He did arrangements for the Stones and people like that. I don't know who the guy was, but come in and do it for this. And the thing she says, like in her memoir, is like, the music needs to rise up to the level of the orchestra, not the other way around. You can't dumb the orchestra down to the level of the music. And I was like, that's awesome. And I do feel like her voice, the guitar stuff, rises up to this level of this orchestra. And so I also think like that song takes such an incredible journey from we're apart, we're always fighting, I'm tired, I can't do this anymore, to I'm coming home. And you're like, ugh.
It's almost like the orchestra is trying to keep up with her, if we're honest. There's something so you cannot put a lid on this voice. And it's like at every moment throughout this album, she's almost suppressing it. She's almost kind of saying like, don't go there too soon. She can't help it.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I think she has one of the most extraordinary voices in music, period. I think it's just, it can seemingly do anything. Quiet, soft, gentle, funny, rockin', ballads, it's pretty incredible. So that's, I think, why I, picked it.
Let's go ahead and give it a listen then, and we'll talk a little bit more about it on the other side.
That's the end of part one. If you access this episode via our YouTube playlist, you're about to hear our guest's standout track. If you'd like to jump ahead to part two, you'll find a link in the description of this episode.